This Italian sandwich bread is absolutely delicious. It's soft and fluffy, but the best part is that it holds together so well for sandwiches. Add the water, sugar, yeast, salt, olive oil, and flour to a mixer. If you haven't made this recipe before, you can wait to add the last half a cup of flour until after you check how sticky the dough is. Knead the dough for about 1 minute and give it a little poke. It should be sticky but not crazy sticky, and also the dough should be pulling away from the sides when it's mixing. Once you learn the feel and look of your dough, you'll easily be able to tell if you need a little less or a little more flour. Knead the dough for about 6 to 9 minutes in the mixer. Remove the dough from the bowl and you can give it a little sprinkle of flour if it helps you remove it. Knead it on the counter a few times and shape it into a ball and put it into a bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Allow it to double in size. Grease 2 loaf pans. I really like these USA brand loaf pans, and remove the dough from the bowl. Divide the dough in half, and you don't need to use a kitchen scale. You can totally just estimate to make sure that the 2 loaves are about the same size. Knead each half of the dough and roll it into the shape of a loaf of bread. This is another time where you may need a very, very light sprinkle of flour on the counter so that the dough doesn't stick too much to the counter while you're shaping it. And that will just help the top of the dough to be nice and smooth instead of getting caught on the counter and ripping. I've already kneaded it into a ball, and then I'm just kind of rolling it up into an oval shape, and I'm using the heels of my palms to cinch the bottom seam. Place the dough into the greased pan, and you can see that I left a good amount of room in the pan for the dough to rise. If you put too much dough in a loaf pan, then it will end up being a more dense loaf of bread. Take a piece of plastic wrap and add a little oil on top. I'm using olive oil, but you can use vegetable oil or butter. Spread it around really well so that the dough doesn't stick to the plastic wrap, and place it gently on top of the loaf pans. Arrange the plastic wrap so that there's enough room for the dough to grow. One important thing to note is that the size of your loaf pans will affect how high above the edge it will rise. If you're using a larger size pan, then your dough won't rise quite as much over the edge. If you let them rise too long in the pan, then they can deflate in the oven. My blog post goes into more detail about what to look for. Carefully place the loaves in a preheated oven and bake them for about 20 to 25 minutes or until they are nicely browned. Remove the bread from the pan and allow it to cool on a cooling rack before slicing into it. This Italian sandwich bread is soft and fluffy. It holds together really well for sandwiches too. For this Italian sandwich bread recipe and more, check out my blog at timeforthetable.com.